Everton's game with Atalanta may bring back memories of their last trip to Italy and possibly one of the great missed opportunities in the club's recent history, not winning the UEFA Cup in 2008. The Blues went into the last 16 match at Fiorentina unbeaten in the previous 7 games, but a poor display saw the team beaten 20, report the Liverpool Echo. Although they played much better in the second leg at Goodison, with a typically vociferous crowd roared them on to a 20 victory to level the aggregate scores, the Blues just couldn't score the decisive third goal, with opposition goalkeeper Sebastian Frey making a string of brilliant saves. Everton would lose the resultant penalty shootout 42 and bow out of a competition that they'd looked eminently capable of winning after all Middlesbrough and Fulham both got to the final 2 years before and 2 years later respectively. Everton's Andrew Johnson scores the opening goal of the match after surviving a first-round scare with Metalist Kharkiv drawing 11 against 9 men at Goodison on a night that Andrew Johnson missed 2 penalties before a 32 win in Ukraine. The Blues breezed through the group stages of the competition with a 100% record before smashing a rusty-looking Norwegian champions Brann 81 on aggregate in the last 32. Those who live by the sword are liable to die by the sword though, and Fiorentina were beaten 42 on penalties in the semi-final against a Rangers side managed by former Everton boss Walter Smith. Who are Atalanta and how good are they? Unlike Smith's first spell in charge at Ibrox, when he amassed a galaxy of international stars including the likes of Brian Laudrup, Paul Gascoigne and Basile Boli, by 2008 severe financial belt-tightening at a club that would eventually go into liquidation and be forced to reform ensured they had a far more modest squad of mostly domestic players, including a 37-year-old David Weir who had been deemed surplus to requirements at Goodison a season and a half earlier. Although it is to the credit of Smith, whose Everton finishers were 14th, 13th and 16th in the Premier League, that he was able to steer such a team of limited talent to a European final. His successor and fellow Scot David Moyes would have been kicking himself when he saw a Zenit team his side had beaten in the group stages ultimately lift the trophy just 35 miles east of Goodison at the Etihad. Everton's Phil Jagielka looks dejected after missing his penalty against Fiorentina in 2008. Fast forward to 2017 and the Blues will be looking for both the first win and indeed goal on Italian soil. Along with the aforementioned reversal in Florence 9.5 years ago, Everton's previous 2 visits to Italy were 10 defeats at the San Siro to both Inter and AC Milan respectively in September 1963 and October 1975. Everton FC transfer target Olivier Giroud on why he didn't join the Blues, but given that Moyes would ultimately leave the Blues empty-handed after over 11 years in charge at Goodison, the laments of the failures on that miserable, wet night in Tuscany will have lingered long.